about Los Angeles.
LA got the people saying,
You're listening to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. Welcome to Corner of the Galaxy, the show that talks 100% LA Galaxy soccer. We're glad you could join us. Now it's time to sit back and relax as your hosts navigate through the twisting, turning, but never boring world of the five-time MLS Cup champion, LA Galaxy.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to Corner of the Galaxy on cornerofthegalaxy.com. I'm your host, Josh Guesman, coming to you on an August 4th. At approximately 8 p.m., which means that we're probably counting down to the window closing. I think we got about 2 more hours, 1 more hour, somewhere in there. I don't think it's going to matter, but we're going to talk a whole bunch about this. Big signing, Riqui Puig is now a member of the LA Galaxy. Rayan Raveloson is no longer a member of the LA Galaxy. Sebastian Lletget was a member of the Galaxy, then went to New England, and now is with Dallas. We're going to talk about that as well, and there's some other rumors that are sort of just hanging around right on the edge of everything that possibly could get done before the window closes. I don't know. We're going to talk about it. We're going to get you there. Also, the LA Galaxy beat Chivas in the first soccer game ever played at SoFi Stadium. Dejan Joveljic once again scoring. Johnny Perez, the youngsters on parade there as well. We got a bunch to talk about, a bunch to get to help me do that. So excited. And she was at the game last night because I was not, which is even better. Please welcome back to the show, Miss Sophie, the Cannon Nicolaou. Sophie, how are you doing?
I'm epic, Mr. Guesman. How are you doing?
I am barely surviving at this point. Today, anytime it's transfer window day, it's a pretty busy day. I mean, you know how that is. You're English. You get it.
It's still going, mate. It's not going to end until September 1st. And quite frankly, I wish this transfer window would end before the season starts. I'm so over transfers.
I was going to say on the English side of things, it always sort of seems to drag out maybe 3 weeks too far or 2 weeks too far. You sort of like, shouldn't the transfer window stop right before everything goes? I mean, even in Major League Soccer, we have the same deal, right? Which is it extends through the first 2-3 months of the season, really until it closes, and then it's only closed for a little bit, and then all of a sudden the summer transfer window is open, and that's sort of where we're at right now. It's crazy to sort of sit there, and at the beginning of this transfer window, Sophie, we were very much, at least I was very much convinced that the LA Galaxy weren't going to be able to make a lot of moves. I was thinking pretty limited in scope. What do they really have to do? How much maneuvering do they have? Not a lot of cap space, a whole bunch of things. Just based on the 2 players that they got and moved 1 player, I'm actually fairly impressed. I have no problem. By the way, people were like, on the Discord today, Sophie, we're sort of like, well, everybody's going to give, Chris Klein and Jovan Karofsky and the front office, they're going to get credit for this. I'm like, well, yeah, that's how it works. You make bad moves, you make good moves. You get credit for the good moves, you get crap for the bad moves. Unfortunately for them, it's been more crap than credit. So I'm not necessarily concerned, but if what they were able to do in this window is a sign of things to come, which I'm not necessarily of the belief that there should be signs of things to come for this particular group of people, then it's not horrible, the deals that they have put together here in this last couple days.
Yeah, it's like when someone slights you, or a family member or friend upsets you, and you kind of want to forgive them, but deep down you're still really angry or upset, and it's very hard to get to that spot. I think that's where Klein definitely is. I saw him yesterday look very chuffed with himself, by the way, as he was walking to his exclusive car parking space in the depths and basement of SoFi Stadium.
So fun. I mean, I was disappointed I didn't go. I went to Disneyland the day before, and so then trying to get to the stadium, I was like, it's not going to happen. I would have had to leave so early from work again, and I missed the day before, and I was like exhausted with some heat stroke and all the fun stuff that sort of happens with Disneyland and that type of thing. But I saw everybody there, and you were sending me pictures, and I was like, oh man, I got FOMO, major FOMO. I'm like, I can't believe I didn't go. And so
I know at first I was trying to make you not feel bad, because when I got there, I was like, this place is empty. And of course, it's Los Angeles, and who can get to a football match at 5:30, right?
Mm-hmm.
And traffic, and of course, getting to SoFi is not the easiest spot to get to. Although I will say I was absolutely shocked yesterday because I arrived seamlessly, didn't have to wait too long to get into the car park, didn't, an easy walk from the car park to the media section. But yeah, and then it started filling up, and I'm like, I'm going to stop sending pictures to Josh now.
I saw it by sort of the second half. Whenever the second half began for the Galaxy Chivas game, it was getting pretty pretty big there. It was fun to watch. Let's start with that game a little bit. This was an exhibition game, and so often I'm very much of the opinion that exhibition games are sort of a waste of time, especially in the middle of the season, and I usually wholeheartedly believe that. I can still acknowledge that there are positives when you can pull positives out of it. And talking to players over the years, especially whenever you go back to the championship-winning LA Galaxy teams, they talk about the friendlies they played against teams like Real Madrid or Barcelona or Manchester United or Spurs even, I think, was in town. They talk about those and say, yeah, I know, I'm sorry. They talk about those things and they have an admiration for them and they have a respect for them that sort of goes beyond just the overall fan or outsider view of that this is a money grab. They're like, no, that was important because, that showed us that we were able to compete with these people or that we could play with these people. And that gave us a confidence going into the next games and stuff like that. And even in some of those games, like I think the Manchester United game, they ended up losing like 7-1 or 7-0 or something like that. Even in those games, there was positives to take out of it, and players tend to take a lot more out of that than I think media or fans do about it. So winning against Chivas 2-0, getting a shutout, Dejan Joveljic scoring a goal, Johnny Perez getting a goal I talked about in the intro, youth being served by the LA Galaxy in the second half. It was kind of special, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was. I just want to go back to a comment you just made because it's really important. When Phil Neville said when into Miami, we're playing Barcelona, this is one of the biggest games ever for this club, I understood what he meant by that. Of course, they're going to play much bigger games if they one day, maybe in years to come, get to MLS Cup. But it is a big deal to be part of history. Now LA Galaxy are part of history. There's going to be a Trivial Pursuit question one day where it says, who was the first guy to ever score a soccer goal, at SoFi Stadium? I've been to an NFL game there, Josh. It is insane. And the whole time I'm sitting there, I'm thinking, I don't care about East Coast, West Coast hours. That has to be the spot for the World Cup final in 2026.
Yeah.
And for the LA Galaxy players to have that experience, I have to say, it felt like it was more important to LA Galaxy than LAFC.
Right.
And I asked Greg in the presser about distraction versus, maybe this being a good exercise, or is it interfering with MLS considering the team struggling? And he and Chicharito both answered my question, and they both gave the exact same answer. I think, Josh, this was a really good exercise for the team. Winning this game, even though it was a friendly and insignificant, they went back to knowing how to win again. And if they had lost the game, there would have been a different narrative. I think people would have come at the side, right? But for them, it was they enjoyed the experience. And he said, look, yes, a friendly and it could be meaningless, but winning is winning. We won a football match. And what that's going to do is infuse the team with a little bit of confidence again as we go into, I was saying to him, the final act of the season. This is it now. This is after MLS All-Star game. It's, stuff gets real, really real. But it seemed like they got something out of it. So you're 100% correct in what you said. And the fans there, of course, the majority of fans there were supporting the Mexican teams. There was a lot of support for LA Galaxy too, LAFC. The LA Galaxy fans really enjoyed that penalty shootout. It was hilarious watching them because they were sitting right below us. So I kept my eye on them during the shootout and stuff. But the second half was a blast to watch.
Yeah, it was. And even from watching at home, the first half was hit and miss. And quite honestly, Chivas probably should have scored 1 or 2 goals in that first half. The Galaxy maybe should have scored, to start with Chicharito jumping on a back pass within the first 10 seconds of the game. Sort of a frantic start there. The field was extremely narrow. I think it's only 69 yards wide, if I remember. So it's inside of 70 yards wide, which is not a good
They're going to have
look.
to work on that.
Yeah, and we talked about that sort of as the World Cup. They said that they would renovate the stadium basically for the World Cup in order to host it, and they're going to need to because There's two things. It reminds me a lot of Atlanta's field in that, yes, you can fit a soccer field on it, but that the sight lines are still impacted from the camera positions in order to get the near sideline from the TV perspective. The near sideline is covered. You can sort of see the tops of the players, like their top half whenever they go for a throw-in, but you can't necessarily always see the line, and they disappear real quick and that type of thing. And that's Atlanta United is like, we built this for soccer. It's like, did you? Because I can't see some of the field from the broadcast. So how good of a job did you build it for soccer? You know, it's like these little things that you're like, oh, well, we did that on purpose. It's like, well, then you suck on purpose, right? And it's the same thing with SoFi. It's like, if you guys knew that soccer was going to be an option and you didn't make it wide enough to put a full field, and I get that stadiums need to be more intimate now, right? Because, I mean, it's gone out of the days, I guess, unless is it West Ham who plays at the Olympic Stadium?
Yes.
Right? And they're like 700 feet from the field, and so you're
the
separated.
opposite of their old stadium, Upton Park. Yeah.
Right. And so and really the Galaxy suffer from this, right? That the field is actually pretty far away, or the stands are pretty far away from where the field is. And back when Dignity Health Sports Park, StubHub Center, Home Depot Center was built, that was the style more. It was, make it wider and, give a lot of room for things. And it's sort of like, well, no, that's not the case anymore. It's actually, you want it right on top of the field, right? And it gives that intimate, and the crowd's right on top of you. SoFi doesn't. SoFi has that for football because it's a football stadium, and
exactly.
And just like they have in Atlanta, they have that for football because it's a football stadium. But when you try to fit a soccer field in there, it gets a little scrunched. And so,
when you think they spent $5 billion on it, they could have just spent that little bit extra. I said $7 billion on my video yesterday, but it's I think when I was corrected, it's $5 to $6 billion. But
inflation.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm sure it's
Cheers,
expensive.
mate.
Yeah. So seeing that, having said that, it looks great. Kevin was funny. I was just talking to him before I came on the show here because we were talking about different rumors that are going around. And he goes, I was sitting in the press box, and the big infinity screen that they have wrapping around is like pretty much eye level with you at the press box. He goes, I ended up watching the game on TV more than I watched the field. He goes, I'm staring at those screens the whole time. And I always thought that was funny because I've done that where even at Dignity Health Sports Park, all of a sudden I'll find myself staring at the far screen. I'm like, no, there's soccer going on like right in front of you. You need to pay attention. But it seems like everybody had a good time. It seems like the atmosphere was really cool. And the only
trouble.
I saw some.
Was there? I didn't see any.
There's some beer showers and some different things that were happening.
Oh, okay.
Those types of things. No, whatever. It was. I think for most part, it was mostly done in fun and jest. So that was pretty good. The field was, pretty atrocious just in terms of the fact that it was just laid down sod. They really had just rolled it. That's all temporary, but that's what it's going to be like. Except they're going to lay it sooner, and they're going to let it sort of. I don't even know how they let it.
Did they lay on the fake stuff, or did they not remove the fake stuff?
So I think the fake stuff was either the fake stuff is there, and then there's a plywood layer over top, and then the grass gets put on, or they take the fake grass off, and then they put the plywood down, and then they put the grass on. I didn't see the exact underlayment of how it works, but if you notice that at halftime they had a little truck going around with a little spraying nozzle that had to like water the field because there's no sprinklers, because why would there be sprinklers? It's not a grass field, right? So it's like little things like that you sort of have to think about. But everybody I've been talking to says that they can't wait to watch a World Cup game there. Like that.
Oh no!
That's going to be unbelievable.
That's all I could think of when obviously I was watching the game, taking note and stuff, but that's all I could think of. I was thinking it would be the greatest World Cup final ever if they can get the pitch right and stuff like that. Like I said, I've seen an NFL game there, but watching football there was incredible. That is a ridiculous stadium. It is unbelievable architecturally. And I love the end of the match. You know when we were done at the end and it's just so quiet after an insane game, whether it's, we've done that with MLS Cup finals and big playoff games, Josh. I just sat there for a bit and just watched, and I was like, this is insane. It was empty. There was no one in there. It really is I think it's a great thing for LA. I think it's cool that LA Galaxy got to play there. Yeah. And I think Greg enjoyed it as well, enjoyed kind of the spectacle of it all too. Well, I thought it was positive all the way around.
Well, Greg was ecstatic for a couple of reasons. One is I think he nailed the rotation of players perfectly. right? You knew there was a game coming up against Sporting Kansas City this weekend. You knew that you didn't want to, and all of a sudden at 35 minutes, I think Brugman comes off, and I'm like, oh my God, did he get hurt? Oh man, this is good.
I know, right?
Oh no, he's just making subs. Okay, yeah, that's right, and that's what he should have done. And then he rotates a lot of players at halftime, right? And so you get sort of this first team look that goes out there and it plays against Chivas in a quote unquote first team. I mean, they're in trouble. Chivas, somebody could get fired because they lost a friendly to the LA Galaxy. I'm just
yes.
When you look at all of the stuff that happened, which is ridiculous, by the way, they get fired because they suck in other ways. But you see that
they were the weakest team on the night.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, you could see it, and it's funny because I thought the Galaxy did okay in the first half. I liked it. I sort of liked the looks that they were doing, and Greg went with the 2 forward look, and I'm starting to come around to sort of throwing my hands up and saying you might as well just start Chicharito and Dayon together because you're never going to start Dayon by yourself, right? Like for me, I'm like, put Chicharito on the bench and let him come off in the last 30 minutes and let Dayon start. And that's my preferred way to do this because I like the way that the Galaxy set up without the 2 forward set, and I like the defensive and the midfield composure and stuff like that. But being he's not going to do that, I'm just like, okay, go ahead and just start them both together then. I don't care. It's whatever you want to do. Just do it. Just hurry up and get it over with. But I did like how it worked. I like Dayon's goal, an assist from Efrain Alvarez on the corner. I thought that was great. But nothing compares to that second half of watching young kids, and the young kids really to focus on. Preston Judd. Preston Judd has been playing at Galaxy 2. He's a goal-scoring machine. He has been a goal-scoring machine. He's just consistent. He's physical without being a large guy. Able to hold up balls, able to pass, able to make runs. The goal that Johnny Perez, and Johnny Perez is another one who I talked to Greg Vanney about Johnny Perez, Marcus Fercranis, Jalen Neal, because they were all away with the U20s for the CONCACAF Championship.
When was that conversation?
That was like a month ago. Right?
Okay.
A month ago. And he was, and this was right as the U.S. was getting ready to play in the final. They hadn't played the final yet. I talked to Greg about him, and he was so hyped on Jalen Neal and Marcus Fercranis. And remember, they just sent Marcus Fercranis, and we talked about it on the last podcast, they sent Marcus Fercranis on loan to Phoenix. And I think the reason they did that is because they really do want him to get playing time, because right now at Galaxy 2, they have somebody else who they're also trying to get playing time, right? And so they're sort of doing it. But when you see Jalen Neal out there at defense, he was talking about Jalen and how excited he is as a defender. And Greg's a defender, right? So like you can feel that extra love that goes in whenever he's excited about somebody else. Talking about Jalen Neal and just what he does well and how he's always calm on the ball. And I think you saw that last night. Jalen Neal as a center back is just like
A flame over Nick.
He's like smooth. He's so smooth. I know. And I mean, I think that Greg was talking about wanting to get him into some senior moments, right? And he was like, we need to get him in. He goes, but I want to make sure it's the right moment because I don't want to stunt his growth at all, right? Like it was like, I want to make sure it's in a good, positive moment for him to come in and really give us something because I think he can do it. And I want him to have that confidence. So Jalen Neal.
Did he play any of them in the Open Cup?
No, not much. A little bit. I think Jalen Neal got like 4 minutes at the end of an Open Cup game. Johnny Perez maybe have played a little bit in the Open Cup. Johnny Perez was outstanding in this game too. He's so much fun to watch.
Josh,
yeah,
you should have heard Chicharito talking about him at the end, and he's like, he was waxing lyrical about him. He thinks the sky's the limit for that young man, and he couldn't speak highly enough of him. And he had that kind of senior beaming player face when he was doing it.
Yeah.
And, they came on and they entertained, but they did their job. It was really kind of, I equated it to like when I watch Arsenal play sometimes, we've got really young players who can be naive on the pitch, but are mature. Like they've got a really good shoulder on their heads. And that is exactly what my observation was yesterday. I'm like, look at these guys. They're coming out here. There's 71,000 people, in the stands. Maybe there weren't that many in the second half, but it was getting close to that. And they had so much composure.
Yeah.
And the way they played was just really so impressive. I loved watching them. It was fun. And I can't remember the last time it was fun to watch Galaxy play. Now, of course, it might be different in MLS when they face, superior opposition.
Right.
But talk about have a couple of players who hopefully can be molded into the first team at some point because they are very talented.
Yeah, I really liked Preston Judd. I really like Johnny Perez playing that game. Adam Saldana is coming back from an ankle injury. That was I guess he played 60 minutes in the Galaxy 2 game before, and now this is the most. So he played another 30 minutes or whatever it was, or 45 minutes in the second half for the Galaxy there. Really liked him in there and just his tenacity. He's a fun player to watch, even though he's undersized. I'll tell you, the Galaxy are getting tiny, in my opinion, right? And we're going to talk about
tiny,
almost too tiny, right? But when you have players who play bigger than they are, it's okay. Like, I'm okay with that, right? As long as you have players who play bigger than they are, I'm fine. Brugman plays bigger than he is already. We've seen him for 2 games. I'm telling you, he's a little tiny dude. I looked at him face to face. I kind of looked down at him a little bit. He's shorter than me. If you're shorter than me, I consider you a small dude. So he's a small dude. He plays bigger than he is. Delgado plays bigger than he is a lot. He's very physical and he goes into things.
He's got a stock on him though, Delgado, a little bit.
He does. I think he lifts the weights. I think he gets after it a little. So Delgado is doing that. We're going to see about some of these other players and just how they play. Like Efrain Alvarez plays smaller than he is, which is he actually has some body weight to throw around, and he doesn't. Kevin Cabral, that plays light.
I should have a bell every time you say something negative about.
I don't.
We need a bell.
I was mean last night on Twitter, and I don't like being mean, but it was also like I'm there. By the way, $5 super chat from Tim at the beginning of the show. I forgot about that, so thank you, Tim. Appreciate that. Keep those super chats going for sure. But I was mean because there was reports, and let's start going in that direction. Galaxy played really well. Youth was served. They did a great job. That's what you need to take away from that Chivas game. Everything was positive. No injuries. People got playing time. Greg rotated correctly. Nobody got overexerted in any such way. Dayon kept scoring. All good, positive things. Can't take it. But there was a report during the broadcast that basically, and I guess TUDN was saying that Efrain Alvarez was looking at what wanted to get out of the LA Galaxy. He wasn't happy at LA Galaxy. He wanted to go. And Chivas is, as far as I can tell, the only team that wants him. So they apparently offered earlier. Yeah, I know that was there's you could ring the bell. They were going after him. Apparently they wanted him, and at first, so far the Galaxy have said no, that they're not going to trade him. Not for that. Like maybe, hey, loan him to us, and they're like, no. If you want him, you're gonna have to pay whatever it is, and then we'll sell him to you. Blah, 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 the whole deal. However, that's going. So. There's this, I said, and so my mean tweet, and this is mean, I agree, and I apologize for this. Of course, I also apologize while repeating it on my podcast.
Would it make Jimmy Kimmel?
Yeah, right, yeah. And it was, well, great. He can hop on the bus with them and just ride to the airport, and you know what? The Galaxy can pack up his stuff in a box and send it later. Just make that deal right now, make it happen, and let it go. And so that was
very witty, I think.
It's wit, but it's mean. It's mean-spirited. I think that the clock has run out on Efrain Alvarez because every year we're like, this is his year. And I'm tired of saying that. So, no, this isn't his year. It hasn't been his year. I thought he played okay in the game. Nothing magical. Nothing special. But I think
the assist.
I think but from a corner. I can assist from a corner. Quite honestly, I really can. Like, that's not...
Does it count?
It counts. It counts, absolutely. But I mean, if there's one thing I can do, it's hit a ball while it's holding still and then not have to run. I can do that. But the whole deal, I think everybody, it was funny because our Discord was like, man, I hope Efrain Alvarez has his best game ever. There are 2 Mexican teams in place ready to just watching him as he's playing. They're like, this is his chance. Hope he has the best game ever.
You're all putting him on the shelf, huh?
So there... To even further this a little more, there is a rumor out there right now. And is it this one? Yeah, it's this one. There is a rumor out there, and it is still going as the transfer window is still open. I am relatively certain the LA Galaxy are done with transfers for this window. I think everything's done. I say that knowing that when we stop this show, there's a great possibility that something else happens, but I think they're done. I think they got the stuff they're supposed to do. But there is a rumor out there right now that Argentina side Cologne, AC Cologne from Argentina, first division team in Argentina. It's Facundo Farias is the player's name. He's a 19-year-old. Number 10 has scored 4 goals, assisted once in 20 matches in Argentina in their first division. And there was rumor that, and people were like, well, how does that work? Like, apparently the Galaxy offered something like $7 million. And of course, in normal parlance, Sophie, you and I would sit there and say that $7 million means he's going to be a designated player, right? I mean, we know this, and the Galaxy don't have any designated player spots, except that if the LA Galaxy could sign him to a U22 spot, they get unlimited transfer fees. So as long as his salary was underneath the $612,500,000, which is the max budget charts, you could pay $30 million for him and still it wouldn't hit. So you could technically get him under a U22 signing. The only way that works, though, is if you have a U22 spot. And so if you sold somebody, let's say Efrain Alvarez, if you sold him, who's a U22 player, you could sell him, Julian Araujo, or Dejan Joveljic. So everybody wants to sell Efrain Alvarez, I know. So if you sold Efrain Alvarez, you could then pay $7 million and get a U22 player, a 19-year-old who is highly touted in Argentina as a backup to your Riqui Puig, who's going to come in. And listen, you're going to need depth there somewhere. Also going to play on the wing, also going to play as a forward. So there's some variability to him a little bit. So you could.
Is this a strong rumor or a soft rumor? And by the way, when you started telling the story, I was thinking, could this be Cabral?
Oh,
is
yeah.
He going to do some cleanup here? You know,
I think that comes in the off season. I think they're going to have to try to find a loan situation somewhere to get him off the books for Kevin Cabral. I also think that there's a strong possibility they buy out Douglas Costa in the off season. That's an expensive off season if you're thinking about that. And we talked about this, I think, on the last show or maybe the show before that. Technically, the Galaxy could open all 3 designated player spots next year using a buyout, using a contract ending with Chicharito, and then loaning out Kevin Cabral. You could absolutely do that.
Let me ask you this, Josh.
Mm-hmm.
Would you, if they did that, righting their wrongs, right? This would be an admission of error, which, let's face it, it's very difficult for some key people in this organization to take accountability and responsibility for. However,
right.
If they did that, would you be happy in the sense that, you know what, they're admitting it, we're moving forward, we've got 3 DP spots open? Or would you be like, oh my gosh, I hope they get this right? Where would you sit with that? Like if they said, you know what, it's bad debt, we're going to write it off as bad debt, this is how we're moving forward.
No, I've played that game before. I've watched them write off bad debt with Giovanni Dos Santos. I've watched them try to like do things, right? I was writing my story on Riqui Puig, and let's talk about that real quick just so we can get out of the way. LA Galaxy officially announced today that Riqui Puig, which I believe we're saying correctly, it's not Puig, it's Puig, and there's some sort of little tiny thing that people in Barcelona put on the end of it. It's not like Barcelona. Which I told my wife that the Galaxy signed somebody from Barcelona. She goes, "Excuse me, that's Barcelona." I'm like, "Okay, you're right. I'm sorry. You were correct." And so so they officially signed him. The main points of this are that they signed him as a targeted allocation money player. That puts his salary between $612,500 and $1,612,500. That's the range for targeted allocation money. Normally, if they say they've signed somebody to targeted allocation money contract, it means that they're a TAM player through the life of the contract, because you take the total amount of the contract and you divide it by the number of years. So it's, let's say you have you're paying somebody $3 million over the life of a contract and it's for 3 years, then your average is $1 million per year, right? We can sort of do that math. So you take the average of the salary. This keeps teams from being like, and this was one of the reasons that Zlatan's deal was a 1-year deal whenever he came on TAM with nothing else. And then they signed him to a new contract, which was a designated player deal after that. And they were not linked together, is because if you linked them together, then you would have to take these salaries and average them, and he wouldn't be a TAM player. So usually this means that the TAM player, his salary averaged out over the number of years, which the LA Galaxy say they signed for 3.5 years. As a TAM player, you could say, wow, they got him for a TAM player for 3.5 years, which would be outstanding.
Does he know that?
Somebody should tell Riqui what's going on in Major League Soccer, right? That's
incredible, though. I mean, everyone was lauding LAFC for the TAM deals they made with Chiellini and Bale. I mean, that's...
Right. Yeah, and everybody forgot that, the Galaxy did it first with Zlatan whenever they were, oh my God, I can't believe they got Bale on TAM. It's like, well, yeah, remember when Zlatan came on TAM? Remember how everybody came on glued? And basically the Philadelphia Union basically came on glued whenever they got Bale on TAM. whole deal. Same thing with Riqui here. There's no reason the LA Galaxy should be able to get him on TAM. There's two things that probably throw a wrench into that, and there's reasons why I still believe he's going to be DP next year. One of those is the LA Galaxy moved Rayan Raveloson to how do you say the place in France? Is it
Auxerre?
Auxerre. You say it much better than I do. Ligue 1 team in France. So Rayan Raveloson, let's trace him real quick. Rayan Raveloson goes from Ligue 2 Troyes, right? He was playing in Ligue 2 with Troyes. No,
Troyes
it's
is
Troyes.
three.
But it's Troyes, right? Troyes,
Yeah.
right? So yes.
Mais oui.
Yeah. Okay. Perfect. By the way, I was talking in our Discord. This is totally aside. I was talking in our Discord, and we have somebody in our Discord, Lem, in our Discord. He lives in Paris. Lem is great, and he translates stuff for us in French all the time. He's amazing. I love him to death. And so somebody was asking like, "Hey, I'm thinking about going to Paris for the Olympics, but I'm worried about going to a place where they don't speak English. Like, I don't speak French." And I'm like, "Listen, here's what you need to do. Dress nice, learn how to say hello, goodbye, thank you, and good night, and excuse me, pardon." Very easy. All right, learn those things.
Do the other two.
Let's see. Bonjour. Right. Let's see. And bonsoir. Right. So bonsoir. What was it? Oh, merci beaucoup.
Merci, Senor Guesman.
Yeah. See, I always want to go into Spanish whenever I start speaking French, which is a problem. So anyway, I said learn those, and then the key for me is dress nice. And Lem was like, "What?" And I go, "No, dude, you don't understand. We dressed really nice when we went there. People thought we were French. Like, it wasn't a deal." And we would go in and say bonjour, and we'd say things. We had people come up to us and have full conversations with us in French. Had no idea what they were saying. We're like, "Okay, merci, blah, blah." Like, we were like,
It's hilarious.
So the whole deal, I'm like, if you dress nice, I go, don't dress like an American tourist, just dress nice. So anyway, that was my
It
little
works in
side.
Italy too, by the way. They love to dress nice in Italy.
Yeah, I think if you go in Milan and you're a woman and you're not wearing heels like down the main strips in Milan, I'm pretty sure they're like, that's a tourist for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's not Italian.
I wear heels whenever I go to Milan too. It's a good time. So anyway, that was a complete aside. Sorry about that. But anyway, they sent him to France. So he went from Ligue 2 Troyes, right? And he goes now to Ligue 1 Auxerre, right? And the LA Galaxy got him on a free transfer. And then they sold him for $1.78 million. So he came over for free. They got 1.78 with a possibility of $2 million. So there's some incentives on there. If he plays, he does the whole thing, the Galaxy will get $2 million. $1 million of that can be turned into general allocation money, right? Which is basically you could be used to do other things with inside the salary cap. So the Galaxy can take $1 million of that and do something with it inside the salary cap. I believe that's correct. That matters when we're talking about Riqui Puig. And the reason that we have to talk about Riqui that way is that, again, I think he's going to be a DP. So the Galaxy did one of two things. They either use the prorated TAM amount, and that somehow equals up to, $3 or $4 million that he's able to get as a salary, but it's just for half the season, so it's not that full amount, and maybe they can do it. Or they bought down a player from a designated player spot to a TAM player with general allocation money, and maybe you can combine them. I don't know. It gets really confusing. But bottom line is,
My head's spinning.
Yeah. Bottom line is, I expect that Riqui and everybody else will eventually be a designated player. So he'll be a designated player. I don't know why my camera's deciding that it doesn't want to focus on me anymore. But it doesn't.
Yeah, you're
like
blurry.
Me.
You're all blurry.
Maybe you're drinking. Maybe that's what it is.
No.
There we go.
There you go. You're back. You're back.
Who knows?
Are you bummed about Raveloson?
No, but I'm also not happy about it. It was a business transaction, and people lose a little bit whenever we're talking about business transactions and players. I liked Rayan. He was a cool dude. I liked his unemotional sort of play. He would just go out there and he would play, and whether he was happy or sad, you never knew. And he was very even keeled. And I thought he was a decent enough signing for the LA Galaxy. He becomes a better signing for the LA Galaxy when they sell him for $2 million. I'll tell you that right now. And I think that they brought him in to be a defensive midfielder, and they learned that he was not a defensive midfielder, and that he was probably more of I wouldn't say an attacking midfielder, but certainly like an 8, a box-to-box guy for sure. And we saw him in the recent days and recent games playing more forward and being in there and trying to make those late runs and do that thing. Bottom line is he's never going to be a great finisher, despite his flashes whenever he first joined the LA Galaxy, right? And so for me, I get a little sad because I like him. I liked him. He was a good guy.
He was very professional.
Super professional. Just, I mean, never any problems with him. Like, it wasn't an issue. You never had to worry about Raveloson. He was going to go out and he was going to put in a shift. His shift was never a 10 of 10. Maybe once or twice whenever he first joined the Galaxy, he had like a 10 of 10 shift, right? Most of the time, he's a 7 of 10 guy or a 6 of 10 guy, and you sort of knew what you were going to get, and he was consistent, and he stayed healthy, and he played, and I don't know that you can ask for that. The other part of this that everybody always forgets, and I guess I ticked some people off on Twitter because Jared Dubois, who was my old co-host, was like, do people like because I said, I go, the other reason that Rayan Raveloson got traded to France was because he was a tradable asset. Like it's not like you can grab Kevin Cabral and be like, hey, anybody want to pay us $2 million for Kevin Cabral? It's like, who's going to be like, no, we've seen him play. We're good. Thanks. We got it. Didn't you guys pay almost $6 million in a transfer fee for him? Nah, we're good. Thanks so much. Really appreciate it. Right? So he's a tradable asset. You have to give away stuff that it hurts a little bit to give away, right? It's
right.
Like, it's never, very rarely can you just send Juan Pablo Angel across the across the hallway to the Chivas USA locker room whenever you don't want them. The Galaxy got away with that in MLS at one point. That's not the case with Raveloson. So he was a tradable asset, which is valuable to what the LA Galaxy wanted to do. The fact that they're getting almost $2 million in return for him is one of the few times in history of the LA Galaxy, Sophie, that they bought a player and made a profit on him. And they didn't even really, if you figure you had to pay him wages the whole time, they basically like rented him for 18 months and then basically, and like wiped their hands and got a couple $100,000 out of it. But still, that money now comes back. And that money is available to be used on Riqui Puig. And
so if you take the heart out of it, it's a good deal.
It makes sense. It's a good business deal, right? And my whole thing was like, I hate people that can't see that you need tradable assets. They're like the same people who don't know how to negotiate or have never negotiated for anything on eBay, right? It's like, like you're like, I'll give you $75 for this, and you're like, it's worth $3,000. Like, no, that's not gonna work. Like it's like I just feel like there's the lack of negotiation skills of sort of like falling apart for some people. It's like, no, they wanted something, and in return we got $2 million, and you can't sell. Let's see, who else were there? I think people were like, why couldn't it have been Alvarez? It's like, well, because Auxerre doesn't want Alvarez. That's why.
Right.
Because, it's like one of those things. It's like maybe they held up a deck, Sophie, and they're like, pick any of these players, right? And how much will you give them for us?
It's that scene in Sophie's Choice,
Yeah,
the two kids.
Yeah, exactly. The funny.
But I guess this is a move in the right direction, then, in your opinion, in terms of. If you become a bit more, but you don't believe it because it goes back to my question to you, if they clear the decks, you feel like you've seen this movie before and you know how it ends.
With Riqui, I am very much there's two mindsets for Riqui for me, and then I'll get your take on it too, because I think it's important. One is, I think that this is a deal that is easy to make in terms of like, would you pull the trigger on it? Would you trade Rayan Raveloson and then bring in somebody like Riqui Puig? And it's like, yeah, you would. Raveloson, we talked about it whenever Puig was coming in. We were saying, well, where does Raveloson fit in with that? Well, he's kind of taking his spot, so it makes sense to move him. $855,000 on the salary cap is a lot for Raveloson, and so taking that away and bringing in somebody like Riqui Puig, it makes sense. You get younger. Although Raveloson's only the 25, so it's not like he was old, right? But you get younger on that. I am unsure of what Riqui is going to provide to Major League Soccer. I don't know how to judge him. I said in my article that if you're barely missing out on a Barcelona first team in La Liga, you're talking about like 1% of the 1% of people who can actually play on the first team for Barcelona, right? I mean,
he was on the roster.
He was, and he played 42 times or 52 times, right? I mean, he played, but I mean, it's not like he earned the whole thing. Everybody was like, they're counting him out, right? He's the odd man out. He's sort of not fitting in the whole deal. And if you're that person, you already have skill that is 1% of 1%. And I've seen a lot of people who are like, this guy sucks. He's horrible. Don't get him. He's got attitude problems, which all may be true. I don't know how to judge him, right? But I have to imagine that if you're on the cusp of Barcelona, you can probably start for the LA Galaxy.
Look, he's not the only one. Xavi's clearing the decks at Barcelona. This is really the season. He was hampered, financially. I don't know how they've been doing it, how they've been making all these transfers. You know how they've been doing it? They've been borrowing money against their TV rights.
Right. And their Spotify listens. That's one of the other jokes we have in the Discord. It's like they're selling their Spotify listens. That's SA Galaxy in our Discord who always uses that when I'm stealing it. So.
I mean, it's incredible, but Aubameyang went there and did quite well last season, and it looks like he's in Xavi's eyes. He wants to cash in on him too. He could be going to Chelsea. There's Memphis Depay, very good player, did very well for Barcelona. Tottenham and Arsenal are looking at potentially him. So it's not like he's just on this scrap heap.
Right.
I think that's what I want people to know about that. He was definitely a player that came through La Masia, and he's been touted as a talent. Wolves were actually in for him at the beginning of the transfer window. Don't quite know what happened there. But here's the thing I think everyone needs to be careful about. And I talked about this on my show in the reverse. I'm really sick and tired of the prejudice towards American players when they go to Europe to play. That's happening right now for Matt Turner, who's turned up at the Arsenal as the backup goalkeeper. And I'm not having it, right? And I think the same can be said for young players who want to come and play in MLS. Now, is it the same standard? No. But this comparison continually with the league, it's ridiculous. Okay, there's leagues in Europe that don't stack up against La Liga, the Premier League, Bundesliga, Liga. They just don't.
Right.
And so if a young player wants to come to the US and play, Simon Cooper wrote about it in his book, Soccernomics. The US is going to be one of the biggest, it's an emerging market, but it will be one of the best places to come and play football. And you're seeing that. Giovinco really kicked it off by coming younger. And then, of course, Insigne, Toronto have 3 players now that are part of the Italian national team. Mm-hmm. So if he wants to come to the United States and play football and maybe go back in 2 years or whatever, stronger, better, with more kind of brains between his 2 ears. I know there's this, this vibe about him that he might be a party boy or whatever. And yeah, we'll soon find that out, but we don't know any of those things yet. So we're not going to judge him on that. Why is it? I think it's a great thing. And I think that's the transition that is starting in the league, and it's going to continue. And I think people need to just give it a little bit more respect when a player decides to come, because he's going to get the opportunity. He could become a superstar here. His market value goes up, and he's a good player.
Yeah.
And he's going to make a difference to this team.
As long as he's coming to work, right? I mean, that's my biggest concern about this whole thing. Is if he sees this as, well, I'm going on vacation, the whole deal. There's other parts to this that make me think that won't be the case. One is Victor Vasquez apparently had something to do with this signing. Apparently he was talking to him, and Victor Vasquez is a graduate of La Masia.
Great.
And so Victor sort of has that in there, right? I would imagine that Chicharito might have picked up the phone and called him. You're talking about 2 guys who have been there and done that and been professionals around soccer for their entire lives and know how to put in the work and know how to do things. Mm-hmm. If they can rub off on him and sort of point him in the direction that he has to really work here, he's going to be physically attacked in this league. He is small. He's 5'6". He's like 130 pounds, maybe even less than that, right? So he's a slight, diminutive little dude. Okay, there you go. There's a shirt for you. A slight, diminutive little dude. By the way, $5 super chat from Gary. Gary says, as always, vehemently appreciate the show. Thank you. Thanks for that, Gary. Appreciate it. But he's a small dude. He's coming to a physical league. I watched highlights of him where the highlight of him was that he's quick enough to get around guys who are trying to kill him in La Liga, and then he would take the foul. I like those guys. Chicharito is that guy, to be honest with you. He puts his body...
Football.
Yeah, it puts your body in a position to draw the foul. I feel like Riqui can do that as well. There's going to be a lot of question marks. The bottom line is this is an easy deal to do. The seismic shift that this could eventually be, and I wrote in my article, and I know it's hyperbole. I get it. But the idea is that this signing is so important to the future of Major League Soccer. If this works, if this has some staying power, if the Galaxy can keep him for 3.5 years and then sell him back to Europe, we've talked about this pipe dream before. Talked about it with Kevin Cabral. Talked about it with all these young kids who come in and you're sort of like, well, we could sell them back at any time. Ramon Alessandrini was talked about. Well, if we buy Ramon Alessandrini, we could sell them back whenever we can. Didn't really work. But, that's the type of thing. The bottom line is this has the ability. The pedigree is there. The type of player that Greg wants, quote unquote, fits our style exactly, right? This is exactly the type of player that they want. And so if this works, the shift, as you're pointing to, is seismic shift, earth-shattering in Major League Soccer. And people don't want to admit that, right? And I think they put out Matt Doyle put out a poll today and basically was like, what's the bigger signing, Gareth Bale or Puig, right? And the whole deal. And it's like, Gareth Bale has the name recognition, but and that happens outside of Europe, right? Outside of Europe, Gareth Bale has the name recognition. Inside of Europe, people know who Riqui Puig is, and they've been following him for a while. Kevin Baxter knew who he was because he went to Barcelona to do a story, and they were talking about him whenever they were doing it. So there's something there. There's some cachet behind that name. Gareth Bale probably will win that poll, but the bottom line is, at the time I saw it, it was 60-40. And the fact that a 22-year-old who has no name recognition in the United States, right? Because relatively few people, I had never heard of him. Very honestly, I don't watch European soccer. It's not one of those things. I don't have time for it more than anything. I watch the Galaxy and everything that happens with them. That's what I have. Bottom line is that had 40%. That says something at that point about how big this could be. Not saying it will be, and could it fail dramatically? Oh, absolutely. And the Galaxy have a history of making things fail dramatically. So I am in no means saying this is a home run, but the deal was easy to pull. It was an easy trigger to pull. You do that deal. You move Raveloson, you bring in Riqui Puig. This could be a significant deal for the long term too. Greg Vanney trying to build around young players, extending out 3.5 years. He should have a number 10, a 10-ish, we'll say a 10-ish, a number 10-ish guy who's going to sit in a spot that he likes, just like he had Giovinco maybe earlier.
And that is bingo, ding, ding, ding. We have a winner. Yeah. That's exactly what he wants. Yeah. That's exactly what he hasn't had since not forever. The way he wants.
Since forever? I mean, Vanney has never had it.
No.
And when was the last time the Galaxy had an actual 10? Because the answer is that they really haven't. I mean, Juninho was as close as it came, and he sort of was on a double pivot with Marcelo Sarvas in that. So not necessarily a 10. By the way, they did ask if I got a churro at Disneyland. No, I did not.
Epic failure.
Yeah, it was. Well, listen. My family doesn't listen to the show, so all of you people who are listening right now, you are my confidants. Don't tell my wife that I said these things. I went to Disneyland. Earlier. I went to Disneyland with a bunch of whiners, is what I did. They were, oh, it's too hot. Oh, it's too crowded. Oh, I don't know if I want to wait in that line. So it was a test of patience. By the way, my youngest, Jake, mind blown, thought it was the coolest thing ever. He was down to stay. He didn't want to go home. He was like, no, let's go. Let's keep riding these rides. I like this. This is good stuff. 2.5 years old, ready to rock and roll. The other two, wait, they're going to have words next time before.
So you didn't stay for the fireworks?
Yeah, right. Fireworks. It would have to get dark for that to happen, and the sun was way up by the time we were still there when we left. Oh my gosh. Anyway, so
did you see the ESPN piece between Sebastian Salazar, is it? And
and Herculez Gomez?
Yeah.
Herc realizes it. I mean, if you saw Herculez Gomez was like, wait a minute, are you not getting how big this is? Are you not understand like how like he was flabbergasted that anybody, and listen, I know that's how shows work. Not our show, by the way. I didn't tell Sophie to take one side and then we're going to sit here and argue it out. But seeing those things the way, but Herc was sort of like, do you not understand what's going on with this? Like This is a huge shift. It can be. It can also go really bad. And if you're, and I don't know, like I said in my article, and you can go to cornerofthegalaxy.com, it's like the Galaxy have had so many bad contracts. And somebody in our chat room, and I forget who it was, pointed it out, said, the reason the Galaxy only had Rayan Raveloson as a tradable asset is because a bunch of their other contracts suck, right? And it's like, yep, okay, correct. That's why you can't trade Kevin Cabral or Efrain Alvarez. And really even Julian Araujo is probably one that's more valuable to you right now than to anybody else. And so you sort of hold on to him and you keep him. And he's regressed a little this year for sure. So seeing those different things, it's like, okay,
That's an understatement, mate.
I mean, I'm not worried. I just want them to establish a style for him and then let him work that
Shoes
style.
got too big once he hit the Mexican national team. He's not been the same since.
Maybe they ruined him. Maybe they were like, here, think about this. And it's like, don't think about that. He's still got a chip on his shoulder. I'm not worried. He'll figure it out.
I know, he'll be fine.
Growing pains. So anyway, you go into this and that's what you get with Riqui Puig. That gets Brugman as well. I mean, so if you give the LA Galaxy a grade in the transfer window, and let's pretend that it's over with right now as we're going, and I've been trying to stay on top of things. I'm pretty sure everything's done. That there's nothing more to talk about tonight.
There's no text.
There's
no incoming
I
text.
did get a text while we were going, but it more or less confirmed that everything is nighty night time and you can put everything down.
When's he coming? When's he hitting the shores?
Don't know. I've asked. I imagine it's 7 to 14 days, right? Because it takes forever. However long it takes, he's got to get his P1 visa, and then he's got to get his ITC. His ITC is the easy part, the International Transfer Certificate. That gets him here. That means he's not going to play against Sporting Kansas City. The next game after that is the game against Vancouver on 8/13. Nope, not that game. Not going to happen. I think if you're trying to target a time for Riqui, it's 8/19 against Seattle, hosting Seattle, or he goes into that 8/28 game for sure, I think, in New England, that's great. Hey, Riqui, you want to come play on turf? By the way, he played for Barcelona's B team, and they play on turf sometimes, so it's fine. I saw highlights of it. By the way, $2 super chat from What The, and he says Vanney probably thinks that Puig is French. That's very well could be. You know how Vanney likes his French people. And What The then gave us another $5 super chat. Said, look up Land of Dreams for Disneyland, Josh. It was $18,000 for the 10 of us last time I went. We paid with TAM. That's good. I like that. The Land of Dreams. I did, however, tell my wife, I was like, I saw a lot of the plaids walking around. The plaids are the tour guides, right? They're in their the plaid pants or the plaid skirts and that type of thing. And I was like, you can get 10 people together, and then it almost makes sense for like 5 or 6 hours to like do that. And she was like, just why? Why do I do this? So anyway,
I mean, it's not cheap going to Disneyland. It's cheap.
I have an amazing listener who may or may not have helped me out a little bit on that. So
nice.
Yes, amazing.
Very nice.
And I would tell you all about this person. I just don't know if that's like cool or not cool, and so I won't.
You don't have to.
But they are
keep
awesome.
that stuff secret.
Yeah, they are awesome. I don't want to share. I don't want to share.
So Puig and Brugman together.
Puig and Brugman. I mean, that's an A transfer window for me, knowing what the LA Galaxy, and they moved Raveloson away to get a very talented. They tried to address the problems. They got a defensive midfielder. They got a cam. Okay, let's see what you can do now. They don't have the one thing that has sort of quickly, I guess, slowly built up over this, and we expected it to sort of change, was to find somebody who could score from the wings. That's still not addressed because Kevin Cabral's not going to do it, and Grant Sear's not going to do it. It was funny because on the broadcast, they were Taylor Twellman and John Champion were talking about how Grant Sear came in that second half, and they're like, oh, man, he's just such a calming influence and all this stuff. And I'm like, dude, I go, you guys just wait. He's going to get in a position to do something good, and he's going to screw it up because that's how it goes. To me, Grant Sear and Cabral are the same player. They just get paid different amounts. So Cabral gets more hate than Grant Sear.
Oh, I don't think Grant Sear's is wasteful with the ball.
And maybe not, but he also doesn't work as hard on the backside either.
I agree with that.
And it's like, I'm sort of like, okay, but their numbers are very similar in terms of expected goals. And they're both at like, I think Kevin's at minus 3.4 and Grant Sear's at like minus 2.8. So they're...
Eye test though, Grant Sear looks
He does.
better.
Well, he looks like Roman Alessandrini until the point where he gets into the chance to score. He can't score to save his life. He did score against LAFC. I'm still convinced that was a fluke, but that's fine. The whole deal. So, I mean, you have that. For me, I think they've addressed a lot of the problems that they had, and in some bigger ways, right? This isn't like they went out and got some depth pieces. So they got starters. They got 2 starters.
Yeah. What's your starting 11 look like then? The best starting 11 for LA Galaxy with these 2 new signings.
Oh, man.
What does it look like?
Well, before I say that, there was a rumor the LA Galaxy were going after Aaron Long from New York Red Bulls. He was apparently on the trading block because his contract is up at the end of this year. And I was like, man, I could see the LA Galaxy going after Aaron Long. And there were some rumors that were indicating the Galaxy might be in on that. By the way, it was Seattle who came out as the team that was definitely in on Luis Suarez, which was not surprising. We know that there's a connection there with Nicolaou, right? And so they know each other, and we've sort of expected that for a while. But they were the ones, and basically Brian Schmetzer was like, yeah, we'd still love to have him. So I kind of expect Luis Suarez to make it to Seattle next year for the start of the season next year, because his contract at Nacional is only through this winter. So
you think that can still happen? You don't think he's going to be settled back home? And interesting.
Yeah.
You could have Suarez in Seattle.
Mm-hmm.
You could have Messi in Miami.
And Cristiano
and Ronaldo
in Los
at
Angeles.
LA Galaxy.
Yeah, LA Galaxy, of course. Why not? So yeah, you could have that. I mean, that's sort of the whole revamp thing. So anyway, I was thinking Aaron Long, because the Discord was talking about playing in a 3-5-2. There's a very good chance. There's a very good likelihood, if you really wanted to get your best 11 players on the field, that a 3-5-2 sort of sits at the best. That doesn't necessarily mean that's how I always want to start. But again, I'm sort of throwing up my hands and saying, whatever, just play them all together. I don't care.
Is that what Greg wants to do?
Yeah, I'm going to tell Greg that 3-5-2 is the way to go from here on out. I don't think that's the way he wants to play. So we'll see. We'll see how that goes. And certainly against Sporting Kansas City is a chance. One of the worst teams in Major League Soccer. For me, I'm sort of looking at, if you can play a 3 center back set, maybe it's Zavaleta and Koulibaly and Williams as a 3 center backs with Bond back there. Bond or Klinsmann. Klinsmann had another good game against Chivas. I don't know that there's a whole big gap between those two, Sophie. It doesn't feel like
between Klinsmann and Bond.
Yeah, I don't think that there's a big gap between them. I don't think Klinsmann is like a horrible goalkeeper, and that he's so much worse than Jonathan Bond. I don't think Jonathan Bond is the best goalkeeper in the world, that he's so much better than Jonathan Klinsmann. I think that if anything happened to either of them, that you're fine with the other one starting.
With Bondy, I think what happened was he came in and he had an immediate impact, and he became a mini cult hero. Is that an overstatement? Perhaps early on.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, to be honest, Bingham was so unlikable that just getting anybody in that position that was not David Bingham was a pretty good step in the right direction. And then he came on our show like immediately. He was like, yeah, I'll come on. Like he was all about it. He wanted to do it. He was excited to be here. Some guys just embrace being where they're at and can comfortably share their excitement for where they're being. And I think Jonathan Bond did that like so well. And the fact that he's like half American and half English, it's like, well, you get a piece and we get a piece, and it like all sorts of sort of works in that. And then he's very easy to talk to, and so like he's endearing whenever you talk to him. He's always honest, as far as I can tell. I don't think he lies. We asked him about the goal that got underneath him in the last game, right, against Dallas, the 1-0 game, and he was like, I'm always willing to critique myself. And he goes, in my mind, this is what I was trying to do. He goes, so I don't know that was wrong. He goes, but I'll go back and look at it, and the whole deal. It's like,
he's honest like that. He and Sasha are probably, and Chicharito, they're very candid in post gamers. But don't you think too that you can only be as good as who's in front of you? And LA Galaxy really have struggled defensively.
Yeah.
And so I feel that's had an effect, obviously, on the goalkeepers. But I would say they're pretty equal on shot stopping. I think Klinsmann's a really good shot stopper.
Yeah.
I'm not sure who's better bringing the ball out from the back with their feet.
Toss up. I mean, Klinsmann has been worse at times, and I know Bond isn't great at it, but Klinsmann has been worse at it. But anyway, so put Bond or Klinsmann in there, however you want to do it. You have the 3 center backs. You have Araujo on the outside. Then you can sort of fit in. You can fit in Brugman. You can fit in Delgado, and then you can put in Puig in that central. And then on the left hand side is probably Raheem Edwards, because he's a good winger, right? So now you have your 5 across there, and then your 2 with Jovic and Chicharito. I think that is probably your best 11. That's not necessarily how I would start games, but it's certainly if I needed offense and I wanted to, or if I wanted to throw a curveball at Sporting Kansas City this weekend and be like, screw it, we're going balls to the wall for the first half. We're going to win this game in the first half, which, by the way, the Galaxy are undefeated whenever they're leading at the half, 5-0-0. So maybe that's a good strategy to play. I don't know. Maybe you start that way and then you back it more defensively. I just know that there's no place to go from that 3-5-2 offensively unless you're going to get Preston Judd on the field. And maybe you should get Preston Judd on the field too. So anyway, I think
that's a pretty good starting 11, Josh.
The Galaxy are not good enough to have an argument over who the best 11 players are. I know that that's That's
No,
not.
I understand what you're saying there. That's a fair statement, but that's not a terrible starting 11.
It's not. It's not. But it's one of those things that it's like, we've been saying this for years, by the way, that there aren't very many arguments whenever it comes to starting 11s because the Galaxy have not been great in terms of depth, right? That also, like, that doesn't have Douglas Costa playing. I mean, that doesn't have Kevin Cabral playing. I mean, remember we didn't mention any of those names, right? And
I have to eat the humble pie on Douglas Costa, I think.
Yeah, I mean, that's fine. So does, the LA Galaxy front office. As much as they get to tout Puig and Brugman, they also have to tout, Douglas Costa. And so, this again, you get what you get. I don't know. I know that they're upset. Certainly whenever Kevin wrote his article about it, I'm sure they were upset. But it's like, could you really expect that there was going to be some sort of puff piece about how good you're doing when you're not doing good? I once talked to a front office person and they were like, you guys are pretty harsh on us on the podcast, which, by the way, I think we're very level-headed. I usually don't go completely out of my way to like spear somebody.
That with me on an episode, maybe.
And I think we do that. And so one of them was like, I think you guys need to take it easier on us. And I was like, well, I think you guys need to win games. Like, winning solves all of this problem. Win games and that you get like good coverage. Don't you understand how that works? Like, you will get positive coverage. You win games, you're good. You beat teams, you get into the playoffs, you do things in the playoffs, you win championships. I mean, imagine all the puff pieces that were written about the LA Galaxy, which I wrote many of them in 2011, 2012, and 2014, and even in 2015, right? It's pretty easy to be positive around a team that is dominating a league. And right now,
so they do listen, Josh.
Of course they do. Of course they do.
I thought Kevin's piece was
balanced, wasn't it?
Balanced, and he didn't.
He didn't
make a statement.
Yeah, he didn't call for anybody's firing.
No.
So anyway, that's sort of where we go with that. This transfer window. I mean, for the most part, we should be done.
Well, it's midnight on the East Coast now.
Yeah, so I think we're okay. I think we're done. We'll find out. Quite honestly, if anything does happen, it won't be announced till tomorrow anyway. So, you can just listen to this podcast and be like, well, hey, morons, they announced something yesterday and, blah, 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 the whole deal. So, anyway, that's sort of where we're sitting on the transfer window. So, Sophie, if you were going to give them a grade on the transfers, where do you sit on this for this window alone? Not because you can't count the first window as a little bit of a disaster with Douglas Costa.
Because the two players are or have the potential to immediately affect the team, which the team really needs badly. I'm going to give it a 7.27.
Realistically, that's a C, right? I mean, 70%.
Is it a C or is it a C plus?
I don't like pluses and minuses. You get an A, a B, a C, a D. I don't know.
I'll give him a B.
A B. I sort of feel like they're in listen to this. I sort of feel like they're in a B plus, A minus range. So I can't.
What's your grade?
I think if you're going to take it on the projection of what it could be, I think it's an A. Because Puig could be a really good player for the LA Galaxy for the next 3.5 years.
We don't play the what if game on this one.
But I don't know how to judge him. This is why it's not fair to judge like Gareth Bale against somebody like Riqui Puig, right? Because Bale has done things. Riqui Puig is starting to do things. And it's like Riqui Puig could end up being a better player than Gareth Bale. Unlikely. Gareth Bale is
in this league.
Yes, yeah. I mean, in this league, yes. But I mean, in terms of the overall career arc, Riqui Puig could end up winning whole bunches of trophies. He plays for the Galaxy for 3 years. He gets sold for $12 million. Barcelona has a 50% sell-on fee, which I don't think we've talked about. Barcelona also has the right to repurchase him basically at any time, which is good because I'm pretty sure that's going to be millions of dollars if that happens, right? So it's one of those, like the Galaxy got him on a free transfer. That alone, the free transfer for him coming over is like worth millions of dollars because if anybody buys him, you're putting that in your pocket, right? So those things are all good. So Riqui Puig could do stuff. We don't know. He he was tasked as perhaps the next Messi, right? And that's always tough because nobody's ever going to be Messi.
So many people are, mate. I mean, but I'm going to hold you to the sword here because you said earlier we're talking about, it's a good business deal. You're asking to grade the window, and that has to come into play, right? The fact that you said it's in terms of Raveloson and getting money and, taking market value for him.
That trade alone is an A. Taking Raveloson and flipping him for $2 million, and he's now an extra piece that you didn't really have a spot for. So you got rid of an extra piece you don't have a spot for. You cleared $855K from the salary cap, which you probably needed to sign Riqui Puig anyway. Then you get $2 million, $1 million of that you can put into general allocation money, which probably helps you buy down Riqui Puig's salary. That move in itself, just by that, is an A move. Because it checks all the boxes off. You got money to do things, then you went out and got a player that you needed. So that move by itself, it's Riqui Puig is the hard one. Because I can see him failing in Major League Soccer easily. And so that's why it's tough to sort of say. So maybe it's a B because you can't judge it. Maybe it's a B- because
all right,
it's
fair dues.
somewhere in there. All right. Good. I'm glad we got through. That was good. That's good. I like transfer windows. I like, it gets everybody.
Do it well. When you
like,
start talking about TAM and GAM and all that stuff, my head spins like crazy, but I learned something.
I because this is like a PG-13 show, I don't want to tell you about my nipples and what happens whenever I talk about TAM and JAM. But let's just say LA Galaxy playing Sporting Kansas City. I'm sorry if there's parents who are listening with their kids in the car. I really do try
it wasn't me this time.
It wasn't you. I really do try to keep in mind that kids listen to the show, and I know they do because parents come up and tell me. So I apologize if you now have to explain about nipples to your children. All right. All I can think of is I've got nipples, Greg. Can you milk me? Sporting Kansas City, LA Galaxy coming up on, I think I have July 30th on here because I forgot to change the date. I did everything right except change the date for this particular game. And if we go over to our schedule, we can see, of course, that it is August 6th coming up this Saturday. LA Galaxy Kansas City, against Sporting Kansas City. Game is a 5:30 p.m. TV start time. Unamas, TUDN, and Twitter. You can watch it on Twitter in English. Remember that. Kickoff, Sophie, is 5:33. So just a 3-minute lead-in for this particular game. So be ready for it whenever it comes around. And again, August 6th, not July 30th. So close. Children's Mercy Park in Kansas City. One of the things I will say is that we thought maybe the weather was going to be another issue because it was very hot there last weekend. It started to cool down a little bit. It's going to be maybe the high that day is 90, which will be at, let's see, it's 5:30, 6:30. So about 7:30 game time there should be relatively okay. It's not great, but it's not going to be like it was in Dallas where it was ridiculously hot. I think it's going to cool down. So that's one thing to pay attention to because I think that really affects guys like Brugman who aren't quite game fit yet. And if you make him run around in super hot and humid weather, he'll tire a lot faster, and so then you won't get as much out of him whenever it goes. The one comparison I can sort of put in here, Sophie, is that Sporting Kansas City is a place that the LA Galaxy don't win at very often either. We talked about FC Dallas.
You've been saying that for the last 3 weeks.
People pretend like it doesn't matter. It absolutely matters. I know. I've been watching it for so long. It's yeah, it's an excuse. Yeah, absolutely. But I don't know if people watch baseball or whatever. Sometimes the Angels used to own the New York Yankees, and there was no reason in God's green earth that the Angels should have ever owned the New York Yankees in any part of any game, right? But the Yankees would come into town and the Angels would be like, oh, we can beat them, no problems. And it was just this mindset thing. And for whatever
early
happens...
2000 team, is that the one you're talking about?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. They used to just beat the crap out of the Yankees for fun, and they weren't even a good team. Sporting Kansas City did win both of its matches against Galaxy last season. The Galaxy have won just 2 of their last 12 matches against Sporting, dating back to October of 2015. Just 1 win in their last 13 visits to Kansas City. Draw 6, lose 6. So 1 win in their last 13 visits to Kansas City.
Wow.
See? And people pretend like that doesn't matter. It matters.
But Kansas absolutely suck this season.
Oh,
they are rock bottom of the Western Conference.
They are horrible. And I still think that they're going to be. Listen, this is Major League Soccer. They're going to be a difficult team to beat in Sporting Kansas City. People have done it. Not saying that it doesn't happen, but this is a game absolutely the LA Galaxy should win. We talk about games the Galaxy should win, and what happens in those games the Galaxy don't win. But Sporting Kansas City has 20 points from 24 games. The LA Galaxy now have 2 games in hand on some teams, 1 game in hand on a lot of other ones. The only one in the Western Conference the LA Galaxy don't have games in hand on are Colorado and LAFC. So 22 games played for LA Galaxy. You have Dallas with 24, Nashville with 24, Seattle with 23, Portland with 24. Let's see who else. And Kansas City with 24. So 2 games in hand, and Sporting Kansas City has 10 less points than the LA Galaxy right now. So that's sort of a 0.83 is their points per game right now for Sporting Kansas City. And their home record, usually a place where they are very good, Soph, 3-6-2, 6 losses for Sporting Kansas City at home this year. That is unheard of. I was talking to their sideline reporter, Ali Trost, I believe is her last name. She's amazing. Super nice, and really always is like, hey, the game is going to start this week. Let's talk about it. And so like for the whole week, we just text each other about what's going on. That's how she can make sure that she knows what's going on with the Galaxy before. I love people like that. So like,
it's cool.
So many like dedicated people who are like, tell me everything that you know, and I want to know it all. And then if you ever catch the broadcast, you catch little things that like you told them and that they like paid attention to. It makes me feel very important. So I love that stuff. It's
you are very important.
I'm very tiny importance. Just looking at this game and trying to figure this out, this is going to be a difficult game for the Galaxy. Short rest because of the Wednesday game. Galaxy, I believe, are traveling out on Friday. It's going to be hot. We expect that everybody made it through unscathed in terms of their injuries. So you're having a full first team lineup. And what does Greg Vanney do with that first team lineup whenever it comes around? This is one of those. Kevin used the term "can't lose." I don't like must-win games because must-win is like a mathematical equation to me, and this is not a must-win game. You could lose this game, absolutely, because what happens if you lose this game, Sophie? You play again the next week. It just makes things It just makes things harder on yourself, but it doesn't mathematically eliminate you. So it absolutely is not a must-win game, but it's a can't-lose game. Galaxy need points so bad. And when we look at sort of our target points, and we're trying, Sophie, on our graphic here, we're trying to get the Galaxy to 48 points, which is what they had last year. Okay, that means that right now they have 36 points available from the next 12 games, okay, which means they need 18 points from the next 12 games. 18 out of 36 is half the points, right? We can do math. 18 times 2 is 36. They need to win half of the available points to get back to 48 points. It's starting to get very difficult to get the points that they need. And that means that this game gets into a can't-lose game.
Depending on what everyone else does too, that's going to come into play, of course. But yeah, you've got to just win your games and focus on you. By the way, I like that graphic. That was a nice graphic.
Thank you. Me and Canva are on like a first name basis. We know how to rock.
Canva is again, the kids are listening. So look, I caught myself there. Very well done. I'm very proud of myself.
Good job.
But I see what you're saying, Josh, because even though they're absolute rubbish right now and they're rock bottom, when you have that record against a side, a lot of that goes out the window. So I understand what you're saying, but I think it's a great point from Kevin. It is a can't lose game because of the situations. They're not the Sporting Kansas City that we've known them to be over the last few seasons.
No,
they're definitely in that transition period.
Yeah, and Peter Vermees could be on his way out. I mean, that's how bad it has been over the last probably 2 or 3 seasons, but especially this year with them. And Peter Vermees is like, basically, it's their Bruce Arena. Peter Vermees is the guy who controls everything in that particular organization from top to bottom. He knows everything that goes on, and this could be his final sort of chance these last games to right a ship enough to be able to be the coach. I would imagine he transitions into a front office role if things don't improve, which is kind of crazy that you're going to be removing him from.
You like him, don't you? Do you like Vermees?
I really do. Yeah. Apparently he's not a nice guy in terms of he's a real competitor. That's probably why I like him too. I've never got to talk to him, but I admire what he does so much. I like anybody who can control their kingdom in that sort of manner, right? Like Bruce Arena.
And do it well.
And year over year, and in a very small market in terms of Kansas City, it's bigger than you think it is, but it's also smaller than you think it is, right? And they just don't have a lot of funds. They don't have a lot of money. They don't have a lot of the things they do. And he finds players, and he's able to pick the right combinations of them, and he knows when to pull the plug too. So I really do like him.
So if Greg doesn't make the playoffs, and Vermees leaves Sporting Kansas,
I mean, he's not going to leave. See, that's the whole thing. So
he'll just go, like you said, up top.
I think he'll just stay sort of in that up top area. I can't see them ridding themselves completely of Peter Vermees, because that I don't think I would do that. There's zero chance I would get rid of Peter Vermees for any reason. I would keep him in some sort of position to affect the team. So I'm trying to go to 538 because I forgot to do it because it's been a busy day. I wanted to see who was favored in this game. So LA Galaxy, 41% chance to win on 538. Sporting Kansas City, a 32% chance to win, 27% chance on a draw. Almost a third split. Galaxy a little bit more favored over that the third. So 41%. I'll tell you this, it's not as lopsided as the ones the Galaxy usually lose for sure. Because anytime the Galaxy are up, a whole bunch, they're favored by a whole bunch, you're like, oh, they're going to lose. And this one is at least close enough that I think this is going to be a really good game. It's going to make people angry how close this game is. That's how close this game is going to be, right?
Oh, boy.
People are going to be upset at how the Galaxy, and I thought the Galaxy played very evenly from Atlanta to Dallas. I thought that the product was actually very similar in both games, and the effort and all the things that happened in those games, I thought they were very similar. One was a 2-0 win, one was a 1-0 loss, but I thought the product was very similar. I think Brugman's a little bit of extra time with the Galaxy now. I think maybe that comes to fruition here. I have high hopes. I think the Galaxy win this game. So,
what do you think the score will be?
2-1. 2-1. The Galaxy are going to have to score those 2 goals like first half, by the way. It's going to have to be 2-0. And then they're going to hold on.
They've got to get off to a fast start. They've got to start getting into the habit of scoring first and not having to chase the game. They're just not very composed when they have to chase a game. That's a real problem. They lose their shape and they kind of forget their role. It's like they lose their identity. And they start playing more like individuals than a team, because I think everyone's trying so hard. You want to get that monkey off your back, right? It's not been that good of a season. And I think that some of the players try too hard. I think they're trying to be heroes. And they just need to just play as a team. And hopefully, this win this week, even though it just was meaningless, it meant something in terms of just getting back on track winning a game.
Because that was a team play in that second half.
It was.
Right? Yeah.
Exactly.
Getting out of tight situations, passing through the midfield, creating and exploiting space. My favorite part is on the Johnny Perez goal, by the way, is the Preston Judd run. Because Judd is on the right side of Johnny Perez as Perez is sort of coming up the left channel in the center. And then Perez is going to try to cut back against it. And Judd comes back across him at one point to start moving to the left. And when he does that, he just draws the defender over to him just a second, because there could have been a pass there. And so that central defender just drifts a little bit. And as he drifts towards Judd, Perez fires to that far post. And so there's just that little bit of space. And that is a Judd run opening up a Perez goal. And it's just an understanding of that movement. I loved it.
They did everything as a unit.
It was great.
And that's what they lack sometimes when they lose control of a game early. They just don't operate as a unit. They operate more like individuals. And that's something they really need to rectify.
I hope that Greg saw what he wanted to see in the young players, and I think he did. And I hope that gives him confidence to play them down the stretch, because I think that there's going to be some chances for them. Whether that comes to Adam Saldana in the center, whether that comes to Johnny Perez, Daniel Aguirre is another kid who absolutely is a player who can play on that first team. Jalen Neal's got to get some minutes down the stretch too. I'm ready. I'm all in. Let's start. Let's light that fire and get that going for
the hammer's
for
so ready.
Yeah. Oh, he's so smooth. He's like smooth thunder. I don't know. It's just like he will smack you and you don't even know it comes. Like it's just like he's like, oh, I'm there. Wham. I mean, how many shots did he block last night? We're gonna get sidetracked because I'm gonna go into my love for Jalen Neal and everything else that's coming. But Yeah, that's where it sits. LA Galaxy, I think, do a good job in the transfer window. Transfer window getting ready to close here, momentarily. Again, I don't expect anything else, at least from people who are telling me that there's probably nothing else. So you can probably go to bed and rest easy. But if you want to stay up and, fingers crossed, maybe Greg is burning the midnight oil at 9:20 p.m. And trying to find one last move in all this before they have to get it approved by Major League Soccer before it closes too. Like, I can't imagine that anybody at MLS is like sitting next to their phone, although they should be. I think everything's probably done right about there. People are already taking my Smooth Thunder thing to a different level, so we'll probably have to end the show there. Yeah. Did you give a prediction for the game? Did you? I probably missed it.
I think it's a 3-1. I think
3-1. They're going to lose.
A brace from the big DJ. And maybe it'd be nice to get a goal from Cabral scores against Kansas.
How dare you? How dare you give people Cabral hope in all this? All right.
Just making sure everyone's still awake.
Yeah, that's right. They're all just they just smash their heads against the keyboard. All right. We're going to end it there. LA Galaxy get through the transfer window. The next date that closes everything down is September 2nd, I believe, is the roster freeze deadline. So you can sign free agents that aren't attached to anybody all the way up until September 2nd, just in case. That means somebody could technically cancel a contract mutually. And once that contract is canceled, they technically don't have a contract with anybody anymore, and you could then bring them over and sign for the LA Galaxy if there was a way to do that. So just keep that in mind as things go around, just in case you hear more rumors about crazy things. That's sort of the bar you have to judge it against from here on out. But LA Galaxy have 12 games left, playing at Sporting Kansas City coming up on Saturday. Again, that is a 5:30 TV time, 5:33 p.m. kickoff time. Unomos, TUDN, and of course, Twitter. So Miss Soph, why don't you tell people where they can find you, and then we'll get on out of here.
All right. At Soccer Diva on the Twitter sphere and at Highbury Squad as well. And check out the YouTube channel. Hope everyone is having an epic summer. Be safe out there. Have fun. And be good. But don't be too good.
Awesome. Thank you, Soph. Always appreciate it. If you're looking for me on Twitter, it's at Guesman, JGUESMAN, and of course at Galaxy Podcast. Head on over cornerofthegalaxy.com. Got an article about Puig up there, about the Raveloson trade, and what that could possibly mean. So check it out, cornerofthegalaxy.com. All right, I think that about does it. LA Galaxy Sporting Kansas City this weekend at SKC. It's a big one. See if the Galaxy can get the win. For Miss Sophie, the Cannon Nicolaou, I'm Josh Pato Guesman. You've been listening. You've been watching to our little Corner of the Galaxy. Have a great one, everybody.
You've been listening to the Corner of the Galaxy podcast on cornerofthegalaxy.com. You can follow the show on Twitter and Instagram at Galaxy Podcast, and be sure to check out and subscribe to iTunes, Stitcher, and Facebook by searching for Corner of the Galaxy. Fans, we thank you for listening, and we ask that you be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the podcast. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm Michael Araujo. And on behalf of the entire Corner of the Galaxy crew, goodbye, everybody.